Good morning, good day, and good evening. Welcome to episode 160 of Tech of a Tea. I am, as always, your host, Brody Robertson. And you know what, kind of annoys me, right? It doesn't really annoy me. It's not like this major deal that really matters, but it just kind of gets under my skin a little. I really like talking about all of this machine learning, all of this AI stuff going on right now. I find it really, really exciting. I am following every little thing that's going on, but then when I make a video on the main channel, even when I frame it around, a topic that I feel like would be really interesting to the viewers of the main channel, every single time it's like, so nobody cares. It's not like, an awfully performing video that absolutely nobody watches, but it's just like, this is one of the, YouTube gives you the, the top 10 videos in the orders the top 10 videos based on their performance. And usually when I do an AI video, it's a 8th, 9th, or 10th place. Every single time. Even though this is such a fun topic and so much cool stuff is going on right now, nobody in my viewer base actually cares. Usually it gets a relatively high click-through and then just plummets. Because usually the way that YouTube works is you get the core audience watching something, then it expands out, expands out, expands out, expands out. If it doesn't if you don't get enough viewers within that expanding range, then it pretty much just stops there and stops going. What you want is a video that hits your core audience, hits the audience outside of that, outside of that, outside of that, and eventually it goes viral. That does not happen when I do an AI video. But I can talk about AI here because on this channel, I literally don't care about anything. So I can talk about, Final Fantasy 14. Actually, make it better. I can talk about Final Fantasy 11, a game that nobody plays and nobody cares about whatsoever. Or I can talk about GPT-4. So GPT-4, I want to say it just hit the scene yesterday for me. GPT-4, yesterday, the day before. Yesterday. So that's the 15th for me, and I guess for the Americans it would have been the 14th that happened, of March 2023. I don't know what year you're watching this. Anyway, GPT-4. I did not know. I knew obviously ChatGPT was being powered by GPT 3.5. Obviously, I knew that things were going to get better. I didn't realize how big the jump was going to be. So you may have seen this floating around. Let's see if I can find it. This is one of those parts where you really want to be watching the video version, because GPT-4 can understand memes. So here we go. This is a very simple 2-part meme with stick figures, nothing that crazy. If you're just listening, I will read out the text. So the top part is statistical learning. You have an angry stick figure pointing to a chart that is going down. People. Our learner overgeneralizes because the VC dimension of our kernel is too high. Get some experts and minimize the structural risk in a new one. Rework our loss function. Make the next kernel stable, unbiased, and consider using a soft margin. Soft margin. The second part, we have a Joker stick figure pointing to a graph that is going up, and this is neural network. Stack more layers, but unironically. And then GPT-4 can actually explain why this meme is funny. Now, I would debate this meme is funny, but it can't explain it. So the comic is satirizing the difference in approaches to improving model performance between statistical learning and neural networks. In statistical learning, the character is shown to be concerned with overfitting and suggests a series of complex and technical solutions, such as minimizing structural risk, reworking the loss function, and using a soft margin. Margin, not margin. I'm going to keep doing that the entire episode. In contrast, the neural networks character simply suggests adding more layers to the model. This is often seen as a common solution to improving performance in neural networks, but it's also considered a simplistic and brute force approach. The humor comes from the contrast between the complexity and specificity of the statistical learning approach and the simplicity and generality of the neural network approach. The but unironically comment adds to the humor by implying that despite being simplistic, the stack more layers approach is often effective in practice. Which is pretty much a perfect explanation. And this is not the only explanation. So this one here, this is the technical report that OpenAI released about GPT-4. And I believe it's on page... What is this one? Here's page 9. This is... what is funny about this image? Describe it panel by panel. So we have an iPhone here. We have a... I guess it's a VGA cable, but it's got a... It's like the housing of a VGA cable, but it's got a lightning? Is it called lightning? The iPhone port? Or is that a... Wait, sorry, that might not actually be lightning. That might be USB. It might not be an iPhone. The point is, it's not a VGA cable. It's actually the charging cable for the phone. Oh, I guess it is a lightning cable. It literally says right after it. The image shows a package for a lightning cable adapter with 3 panels. Panel 1, a smartphone with a VGA connector, a large blue 15-pin connector, typically used for computer monitors, plugged into its charging port. The package for the lightning cable adapter with a picture of a VGA connector on it. Panel 3, a close-up of the VGA connector with a small lightning connector used for charging iPhones and other Apple devices at the end. The humor in this image comes from the absurdity of plugging a large, outdated VGA connector into a small, modern smartphone charging port, which is, once again, a perfect explanation of what is going on in that meme. Or we have this one where it's chicken nuggets shaped like the world map. Sometimes I just look at pictures of the Earth from space and I marvel at how beautiful it is. This meme is a joke that combines 2 unrelated things. Pictures of the Earth from space and chicken nuggets. The most important thing. The text of the meme suggests that the image below is a beautiful picture of the Earth from space. However, the image is actually of chicken nuggets arranged to vaguely resemble a map of the world. Wait, a map of the... Yeah, lost my spot. The humor in this meme comes from the unexpected juxtaposition of the text and the image. The text sets up an expectation of a majestic image of the Earth, but the image is actually something mundane and silly. Just quit. Just quit living at this point, because everything is going to be handled by AI. It's getting to the point... I was thinking of something dumb the other day, and I kind of want to buy the domain, just in case someone else buys it. So, you know how there's that website called Let Me Google That For You, and there's a bunch of different, iterations of it as well. If you've never seen it, basically the idea is, people will ask you a dumb question. It's a question that if you just typed it into Google, would give you the results straight away. So the idea with Let Me Google That For You is you send them this page. So let's say you want to search for something like, how do I make an apple pie? So, if someone asks you, how do you make an apple pie? Well, search it on Google. And then if you go grab the Let Me Google That link for you, then it'll go and Google it for you. So the idea that I came up with, right, and I'm sure someone else has thought of this, and I'm sure someone else is going to implement it. Let me GPT that for you. There are no results for how to make an apple pie. Okay, take back what I said. This site's broken. How is it broken? All it has to do is query the fucking Google API. Let me GPT that for you. So if someone says, I don't understand this meme, well, what you can do is you can get GPT-4 to analyze the meme and explain it to you. We have entered a ridiculous time where AI systems are going to have a better grasp on internet humor than actual people are. Like, obviously, people on the internet that are like, terminally online have a good grasp of internet humor. But if you take some of the nonsense you see on like some of like the Twitch memes, for example, like just a very simple one, like from Xenosis Vex's chat, like XFFing or make the tree. Like dumb things like this. Regular people are like, what does XFFing mean? What does that mean? I have no idea. So, those people can defer to the AI to explain how these dumb internet memes work and actually understand what their 12-year-old is saying. We have entered a time where the normies can understand internet memes. And depending on what datasets these models are going to be trained on, well, you could have some 4chan memes being explained, which I'm sure is going to go perfectly well. I am very curious to see how far this goes. Like, everything is improving so quickly. Just one of the areas that I've been paying attention to is AI art. So, I remember, like, during the, like, early days, like, I want to say early days means, like, a year ago. Like, a year, 2 years ago, where the AI art systems that existed were just, well, we generate this thing, and it looks weird. It's got, like, 7 fingers on one hand and 3 on the other. It's got a missing leg, but it's also got, like, this half extra leg as well. Like, it's just a mess and absolute garbage. I'm sure you've all seen some of the early AI art. Early AI anime is where it's most entertaining. Let's see. See if we can find something fun. It's been replaced with all the good art. Oh, actually, you know what? This works. Here you go. We've all seen pictures like this where it's like, I have no idea what's even going on. But then we look at like where it is now. And I browse Pixiv relatively often looking for images. And it's getting to the point, like, as of I think like last month, some of the art being generated, I have to like do a bit of a double take, seeing if I can spot it. Right now, it's genuinely getting to the point where unless you zoom in on the image, it's very difficult to tell. Like, if you look at an image that's been, like, zoomed out, it's like, how you would have it on, like, a phone, for example. It's not like there's extra digits, anything like that. It looks like you would expect it to if it was drawn by hand. Now, that's obviously not every model, but, like, the big thing happening now is people blending models together, giving the model, like, a specific style. And this is how it's improving so quickly. As I've said in previous episodes, it's getting crazy. I think one of the things that could be like sort of put brakes on this entire thing is one area we sort of have tools for at this point is AI music generation. There are tools that are available. They're nowhere near as good as what we are seeing on the text and image side. So they're not really getting anywhere near as much attention as some of those tools are getting. But when they do, I feel like that's one area that you could legitimately see something be stopped. Like Sony, for example, and all of the other big music labels, if they find out that their work is being used unlicensed in these models, whoever is building that, like those models, the big companies behind it, they are going to get sued. Like, these companies don't fuck around. The difference with the art, text, and I guess code as well with GitHub Copilot is there's not really any big targets that are being fucked with. Like, from my understanding, GitHub Copilot is also by Microsoft, so they're not going to include their own private code in there, but it's not including private repos, the thing that would actually be, you know, get some force behind a lawsuit. Because sure, the EFF is going to get annoyed by stuff, and sure, the FSF and all of these, you know, organizations, but not massive. The EFF is probably, maybe the Linux Foundation, EFF or Linux Foundation would probably be the biggest organizations in the programming space that would really care about AI AI code generation. At least until you fucked over some of the big companies using some of their proprietary code, but they know not to do that. AI art is pretty much the same. There is not really a big organization in a position to go up against, you know, Midjourney or anything like that. What's the company behind Midjourney? Are they called Midjourney? Who develops it? Oh, wait. No, it's from an independent research lab. So I guess, yeah, someone could go against it. Or like you have DALL-E from OpenAI. Like, OpenAI has a lot of money. Like, billions of dollars at this point. They went from being a non-profit. I think Elon Musk was actually part of forming OpenAI, and then eventually became a for-profit company. Now they have a lot of money and are backed by Microsoft. So, yeah. Like, is there anybody in the art space that has enough money to hold a lawsuit against Microsoft, basically? The answer is really no. Like, I totally understand the concerns of the artists who are like, my art's being stolen. This is so terrible. How dare this happen? But the problem is that nobody has the resources to fight back against that. So it's pretty much just gonna happen no matter what people say on Twitter. And that's not a good thing. It's just the way it is. But music is one of those places where there are really big entities you could fuck with who really are not going to be happy. I would imagine any sensible person training an AI music model would train it more on like the YouTube music, on Creative Commons music where it's not going to be a problem. You do not want to fuck with Sony. You do not want to fuck with any of the big music labels because they will fuck with you and you will probably lose. They have more money than you do unless you're Microsoft. I could imagine, you know, if OpenAI wanted to go down the music generation route, I could imagine a lawsuit between OpenAI and Sony Music. Like, that could happen. I don't know if it's going to happen. I really don't. I think OpenAI is just focused on text and image right now because that seems like the most... Like, text especially seems like the most... Maybe not the easiest, but the most obvious thing to target if you're... Actually, I guess it would probably be the... easiest out of, like, you know, music, digital art, things like that. Like, there's so much extra sort of, how would you say, I guess, details? Maybe that's not the best word, but extra criteria that needs to sort of line up if you're dealing with AI art, for example. Like, just a very simple example. Let's say you have AI art where it's a portrait. Well, there are very clear things that people know that a portrait should and shouldn't have. So you want to have the correct number of fingers. You want to have the eyes, you know, placed in a way where they make sense. Like, yes, there are people that have a lazy eye, but unless the lazy eye is intentional, it looks kind of off in an art piece. Like, if it's not clearly set up to be a lazy eye, it's more like one of the eyes are slightly off. Like, the human brain and the human eyes, whatever, are really good at working out that a face is off. And this is even true with, like, AI anime stuff and, like, stylized stuff where, you know, it's not necessarily realistic, but we still have a general concept of how a face should look. Like, even though anime faces are anime faces, and especially with like the moe stuff with the giant eyes, things like that, you look at that sort of face and you know it's a face. Like, you can see like when an anime face is off, even though it's not like a real face. Like, even if you've never watched anime, you can certainly tell when a face is off. Let me see if I can find a good example of this. It's not AI stuff, but it is the original version of Canon. Um, is- where is it? Yeah, here we go. This is okay. There are pictures that exaggerate it, but this is one of the actual frames from the show. Like, there's just something, the eyes are a little bit too far apart. It throws you off just a little bit. There's just something disconcerting about eyes that are that big, that far apart. Compare that to something like, the remake of Canon or pretty much anything else where you're like, okay, it's clearly weird. It's clearly still an anime face, but like, it's not that bad. It's not horribly bad. But, if you've not looked at the current state of, I think the area that's improving the quickest is AI anime, because there's just so much art already out there, and Kumas. I'm not joking when I say this, right? But the area that's improving the quickest is the hentai. Like, this is just what it is. What it is. It's sort of the same with sort of any tech that evolves, any tech that gets adopted, where porn is usually the driving force behind it gaining traction. Like, this is why movie cinemas, movie theaters, cinemas, whatever, theaters, we'll say, places where you go to watch a movie with other people. One of the things that pushed them was porn. Like, there was a time where you would go to the cinema and there would be porn. Like, it seems bizarre today. But like, yeah, this was a thing. And then you had, like, when VCR, or VHS, sorry, when VHS hit the scene, like, one of the things that pushed that into the home is porn. DVD, porn. Blu-ray's at a point where the internet had already gotten good enough where it didn't really matter. So no one cares about Blu-ray. But the internet, like, one of the big pushes for that, porn. One of the big pushes for VR, porn. One of the big pushes for AI, porn. Now, with the VR one, VR still needs a little bit of a push. It's still a little bit behind, and a big part of that is the fact the headsets are still very expensive. So your average gamer, unless they really like the idea of Beat Saber, or what's that gorilla game? Gorilla Tag, I think that's what it is. Yeah, Gorilla Tag. Or like, there are games in VR, or like you're a VR chat person, you don't want to just do VR chat on a regular monitor. Like, there are reasons why you might want to buy a VR headset, but like the Vive, how much is the Vive right now? Because I know Valve has one. There's a couple of other headsets. So Vive's a new one, but Vive's sort of more gone down the enterprise route, hasn't it? I can't find prices. Wait, is Vive discontinued? Am I this out of date on what's going on? Oculus. Let's see how much an Oculus is. Okay. But even like regardless of what you're looking at, you're still thinking of spending like $5, $6, $7, $800. Yeah, like the Quest 2 is $600. Um, Valve Index. Okay, I can't buy it. Can't buy it. Why can't I buy it? Like, yeah, you look at like $2,000 in Australia. It's like they're coming down. Like, I remember when my first experience with VR, I think, was the Oculus. I want to say Oculus DK2. Yeah, Oculus DK2. I did the roller coaster demo. I see if I can find that demo because I think it was one of like the standard ones that everyone knew about. Oculus DK2 roller coaster. I'm sure I can find it. This is a video from Jacksepticeye from 2014. Jesus Christ. Is this the one? I don't know if this was the... I feel like there was a roller coaster outside. I think it might be the same demo, but it's a different, like, part of it. And the DK2 was like, it was not good. Like, it was very screen doory. The refresh rate was terrible. I got motion sick within like 5 minutes of using it. The last time I actively used VR was a Vive of some sort, and it was better, but it's now at like 30 minutes to an hour and I get motion sick. The problem that we still have with like VR adoption is they're still a little bit too expensive. Like, most people will be willing to spend, let's just go with the bottom price. Like let's say we're looking at the Oculus, like the Quest 2 Pro or the Quest 2, whatever it was, $600. Let's just go with that range. People are willing to spend that on a monitor, on a GPU, on a CPU. But the VR headset still is not considered to be sort of an essential part of your gaming setup. It's still seen as this, like, this extra thing. So even if the price is, like, say you bought like a 4090, for example, it might still seem really expensive to buy a VR headset because the 4090 is something you're going to be using constantly. Like, the math is playing out in your head, and you can work out, like, yeah, you know, the 4090 is really expensive, but I'm going to use it every day. But, like, how often am I going to use a VR headset? I'm going to use it, like, once a week, once every couple of weeks. How much time do I have to do gaming? Like, do I have enough time to, like, add the VR stuff alongside the other games? None of the games that I'm into now are VR games. It's still this point where it's like, do I not? A lot of people have VR headsets now, and it's certainly, like, expanding, but I think we're still, like, a good 5-10 years away from, like, mainstream VR. Like, VR is just not getting as much attention as it was for quite a while. Like, I'm sure it's gonna... Like, VR is... It seems like the, like, big logical leap that eventually is gonna happen, but the other problem is just... Gamers are fucking lazy. Like, that's the other big thing. It's... The appeal of VR is sort of the same appeal as the Nintendo Wii. You know, you can get up, you can stand up and game, you can, like... It's pretty much... You can be physical while you're gaming. But, like, that works for a console for the family. But if you're sitting around, you're a fucking WoW nerd, you're a 14 nerd, you're a, I don't know, RuneScape nerd, do you want to get up and walk around? Fuck no. Like, I think the point where VR is really going to take off, and this probably won't happen, it might happen in my lifetime, but it's not going to happen while I'm young. Like, when we get to that sort of Sword Art Online point where you don't have to move, it's just all being controlled by your brain. Fucking alarm next door. Because I don't know how much you've seen about it, but there's this Elden Ring brain control. I type in Elden Ring brain as Elden Ring brain dead. So yes, this is a really good video. Going over how this girl plays like Elden Ring using her mind. And there's a bunch of other clips of it as well. This includes like how things map when she thinks of certain things. She still plays with a controller to do certain parts, but I think the attacking and other things are done with the head thingy. But it's still something you have to wear on your head. And it's still very simple. Like, this bit, she's sort of going over what happens when you think of certain things. But it's still like it's kind of guesswork. It's like, we know that when certain parts of the brain light up, well, probably do this thing. Like, that's sort of the idea. So it's very much just like, I don't know, I think this is a bit where she's thinking of certain things. Yeah. Because then certain parts specifically get lit up more than others. But it's still very much guesswork. When this gets better, and when we are past just guesswork, and when we are, actually at, like, Sword Art Online, you can play this game as if you're just walking around in real life. That's when VR is actually gonna be, like, really popular. The problem is doing that is, probably hard? I don't know. I'm not a neurosurgeon. I'm not a neurologist. I'm not a psychologist. I fucking know. I am not a brain person. I don't have much of a brain either, but I'm not a brain study person. I don't fucking know what I'm doing. But if Elon Musk's idea of doing Neuralink is, gonna be possible, surely taking that a couple of steps further, one day into the future, is gonna be possible. I think getting, like, medical use for, like, that level of control, like, this is, as I said, it's still, like, very much guesswork and requires a lot of training. When it gets to that point where it's sort of more like, it's like you pick up, a PlayStation controller, and while, the first time you grab one, it might be like, oh, I don't know what buttons to press. Like, you get used to it pretty quickly. This is still, from my understanding, not that quickly. Why is it out of focus? What are we focusing on? Focus on my face. Thank you. Jesus Christ. I've really considered just making the focus manual focus so it doesn't do that anymore. Yeah, there's a lot of cool things, like, that are probably gonna happen in my lifetime that I hope I'm still around to see. Like, knowing that things like Neuralink are probably possible, knowing that this is definitely possible, there is some hope that one day Sword Art Online would be possible. And you know what? If that does happen, I'm just gonna live in the game, because by the time it happens, I'm gonna be like 60 or 70 probably. If I'm retired, I'm just gonna fucking play video games literally all day. I'm gonna be fucking running around killing dragons and shit. Like, why would I do anything in the real world? Fuck the real world. I got this virtual reality world. Way better than real world. I can, like, jump around and shit. I'm fucking 70 years old. I can't do anything in real world. But I know some people are very worried about, like, the increasing technology in our life. One day, like, we're seeing, like, the breakdown of relationships, things like that, and I'm sure it's really bad. And I'm sure the fact that, like, birth rates in what do you call it? Not Americanized. It's like the word for rich countries, not first world countries. There's another term I'm thinking of, but like those, a lot of the rich, I would just say rich countries. A lot of the rich countries where birth rates are declining because most people are just online, not interacting with real people, and this is a problem. And I'm sure it's going to be one of those things where it's sort of really noticeably becomes a problem 40, 50 years from now. Like, I believe it was like, this is why the baby boomers existed, not because of this, but because after World War One, because like the war tactics back then were throw bodies at the enemy, a lot of people died. So you had this massive drop off in population. And then when people got back from that, then they went to fucking, and lots of people got born. But we're gonna sort of get to like a similar. It's gonna be a similar result with a different path to get there. Like, people died because there was a war. People are gonna just get old and die, and there's gonna be this lack of people. Maybe that causes like the baby boomer 2.0. I don't know, but I don't know how we got here as well. Why am I talking about this? I have no idea. It's actually especially bad already in places like Japan. Japan has a serious problem with a aging population and does not have enough people to like the way you have a system where you can have, elderly people retire and get money from the government is you need a lot of young. It's basically a pyramid scheme. What I'm saying is most governments operate in a pyramid scheme. So the only way that you can fund the life of the elderly people is you need a lot of money coming in from the young people, right? So you have a lot of young people, you have less people older than them, you have less people than that, and eventually you just have a couple of old people at the end. Now, the old people at the end don't make as much money as people at the top of a pyramid, but it's the same idea. You have lots of people at the bottom, less people at the top, the money from the bottom flows up to the top, and eventually they have lives. Yeah. But in Japan, it's sort of becoming the other thing. Japan it's already like really accelerated down that direction where they have a lot of old people, but I think they have, is it a negative birth rate? I'm gonna check. I want to say, I know it's very low. Japan birth rate. That number's doesn't make any sense. No, that number doesn't. Wait, what? Birth 1.34. No, that doesn't make sense. No, that's not correct. Is it correct? Is it higher than I thought it was? No, I'm pretty sure it's lower. No, okay. Scratch that. I'm slightly off my numbers. It's not as bad as I thought it was. It's 1.34 per woman. 1.34 per woman. Yeah. Which is not good. That's basically per person. So per person, they're replaced by one person. One and a bit. But that doesn't account for people, dying, people leaving the country. So you want that number to be like 2 at least. So not 1.3, not like South Korea. South Korea is actually really bad. South Korea is 0.84. 0.84 is, so for every woman in the country, there is less than a single person born. So their population, without bringing people in, over the next 50 or so years, is just gonna whoop. And that's the problem. Especially because you also still have the elderly people, and you need some way to bring money in to have the social programs so that the ones that don't have these giant retirement funds still have money. To be fair, the United States is not much better. Like, this is why I say Japan is further along. Japan is 1.34. United States is 1.64. And you compare this to where things used to be, right? So in 1960, Japan was at 2.05. United States were at 3.65. So that's the rate you want. That's why there was such a boom in population back then, because everybody was fucking, everybody was having kids constantly. And that, keep in mind, that's an average. So that means there were families that would have had like way more, would have had like one kid, but every single family. So obviously you have the two parents. So you want to replace at a minimum the two parents in the population. Yeah. Um, South Korea was way higher at one point. South Korea used to be at 6.0. To be fair, China also used to be very high, and then, one child policy stuff started happening, and the numbers go whoop. How did I get here? I don't know what I did to get here. I think it was something about me dying before Sword Art Online happens. So this is why you watch the podcast, because sometimes I talk about things that matter. Sometimes I go on these random tangents that nobody knows how I got here, and I'm just winging it, basically. I'm just like, hey, fucking keep talking. You're gonna say something smart at some point, but you probably won't. That's how I feel. One thing I didn't touch on at the start that I wanted to is when Bing unveiled all of the Bing GPT stuff, the Bing GPT, which we thought was 3.5 like ChatGPT was using, turns out Bing was not actually using that. During that testing, and still to this day, Bing has been powered by GPT-4. So basically, Bing search was sort of like it was sort of a beta test for GPT-4 just to make sure that things were like stable as they should be. And I'm guessing that even though, there were definitely issues, it's not perfect. Like Lambda's not perfect, but Bing didn't get as much attention with it kind of fucking up a lot as well. But it was still giving really good results that couldn't really be explained or replicated based around ChatGPT. Obviously, GPT-4 is specialized for search, but assuming they were powered both by GPT-3, GPT-4, Bing GPT is specialized for search. If they're both using GPT 3.5 on the back end, you'd expect them to be able to produce like similar results. But a lot of people suspected that it probably wasn't 3.5. Nobody had any confirmation of it. But yeah, now it's absolutely certain. Yes, it was GPT-4, which is cool. Which is actually really cool. And it does bother me that nobody seems to really care about the AI stuff right now. Like I remember when it first started, when AI this ChatGPT stuff was first hitting the scene, everybody was so excited about it. They're like, this is crazy. Look at what all this can do. It's sort of become like a hammer way quicker than I would have expected. Now, what I mean by that, for anyone who doesn't understand the ramblings of an idiot, what I mean is, if I show you a hammer, it's not very exciting. Actually, a better idea. If I show you a drill is not very exciting, right? Like, you understand what a drill does, how a drill works. You've used a drill before, it's not that crazy. But when the first person came up with, a wireless battery-powered drill, for example, this was a big change. Or just the first electric drill, full stop. This was crazy compared to the manual drills being used before. And ChatGPT is it's sort of like a drill now. Everybody's just accepted that it's here. And even if these big improvements are happening, no one cares. No one cares that the new, there's a fucking 2023 Ford Mustang, a 2024 Ford Mustang. No one cares. It's just another one. What's this a big deal? And sadly, AI's already entered that, and all of the excitement's gone away. I think part of the excitement going away is there are a lot of people out there sort of treating AI kind of the same way as crypto. Um, so you've got this. I've seen people throwing around terminology like AI bro. Because, you know, like there's crypto bro, these people that think that. Go away. I don't. Yes, I'm still using that fucking email, Twitter. Go away. So there were people that were like, you know, crypto bros. They're like, crypto is going to save the world. Everyone is going to be using crypto. Your entire bank account is going to be crypto. Like, those people are crypto bros. And the term AI bro is sort of floating around as well. Like, sort of as a, trying to dismiss what is really going on. Like, that it's not that big of a deal. It's not that crazy. It's not really that important. Just calm down about it. No one needs to really care what's going on. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna keep talking about the AI stuff going on, and it's probably gonna happen every couple of episodes or so. But you know, it is what it is. Speaking of things like crypto, so remember how Meta, you know, Facebook called themselves Meta because they were all in on the metaverse and all in on NFTs and all that fun stuff. Yeah, so Meta gives up on NFTs for Facebook and Instagram. So even Meta, like, this is how dead NFTs are at this point and how little anybody cares. Even Meta gave up on NFTs. This company, like Mark Zuckerberg, it seemed like he was going to bankrupt the company just to go down the path of NFTs. Like, so many people were being fired, they were losing so much money. But even Meta is like, you know what? Maybe NFTs are not a good idea. Like, I didn't think this day would come. Meta is winding down its work with NFTs on Facebook and Instagram. Meta commerce and fintech lead Stefan Casriel said in a Twitter thread on Monday. The decision means Meta will end its testing of minting and selling NFTs on Instagram, as well as the ability to share NFTs on Instagram and Facebook in the coming weeks. The NFT integration seems to be one causality. Casualty, not causality. Casualty of CEO Mark Zuckerberg's drive to make 2023 the year of efficiency, along with the Reels Play bonus program. But their end also follows the shutdown of the Meta-backed cryptocurrency Diem, and Meta's Novi digital wallet last year. Still, even as Meta exits NFTs, other companies are rushing into the market that collapsed in 2022 and shed billions in value after stratospheric levels of hype in early 2021. Yeah, I remember when NFTs were like this big crazy thing that everybody was supposed to care about. Like when they first hit the scene, when Bored Ape Yacht Club was first coming out, and you know, the whole, don't screenshot my NFT, you're stealing my property. Stop stealing my property. What a fun time that was. But yeah, there are still like big companies getting involved. I know YouTube was doing something with NFTs a couple of weeks ago. YouTube NFT integration. All the way back at September. YouTube includes NFTs in new creator tools. I didn't actually pay attention to what this was. Creators will be able to monetize short form videos and sell content as NFTs. Creator tools, blah, 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 blah. Blockchain NFTs, deeper relationship. The expanded tools give a verifiable way for fans to own unique videos. Is this even like a thing that exists on YouTube? Like, I'm gonna check because I've never seen an NFT related button. I can add merch, watch page ads, short feeds, memberships, super shopping. Maybe I need to like enable. Maybe I need to enable shopping and then I could do it. If I go get started. Get started. Connect the don't have a store. Learn where you can create a store. I guess maybe you could like link. No, it's Shopify, Spreadshop, and Spring. I don't know what the deal is with that NFT stuff is. Like, maybe they canned it, maybe it's still a work in progress, but even though this happened a month ago, I don't even know where I would begin to look for that. I think, okay, I know people will meme on the NFT stuff, but I don't mind it existing as an option. If someone wants, like, this is the thing, right? If someone wants to sell NFTs and someone wants to buy them, I don't care. What I have a problem with is when NFTs are the only thing that can be done. Like when NFTs infest a video game, for example, and like with Dr. Disrespect's game that he's making. Like, he recently put out a bunch of tweets being really confused why everyone's calling his project a scam. And he's even talking about the, hey, if you buy the NFTs, then in a future game we make, you could bring the NFTs over, and you actually own them, and they can be just brought into the game. And everyone's like, we've had this discussion like a year or two ago. You don't need NFTs for that. You can just have a fucking system. Like, for example, with Counter-Strike, for example, I know there was all the discussions about, hey, there's going to be a Counter-Strike Global Offensive 2, and now the rumors are more like, oh, it's not going to be a Global Offensive 2, it's going to be like an engine upgrade, which probably is the most likely. But even if you imagine a Global Offensive 2, it's not like they're going to just throw away all the knives, all the skins, things like that. They are attached to your account, so if you just migrate all of the assets into the new game, then, like, there's no NFTs here, it just works. It just is what it is. No need for NFTs. I think the dumbest thing about the NFTs in games was when they were like, hey, if you own this NFT in the game, you actually own it. So if your account gets banned, then you can just transfer those assets, those NFTs to a new wallet, and wow, look at that, you still have all your stuff, you still own it. But the thing about that is you don't, because your NFT only has value in the game if it has a use in the game. And there's nothing stopping the game developer saying, okay, you got banned in the game, well, we just blacklist the IDs for everything in your wallet. So now if that NFT is sold to someone, it doesn't do anything. Like, it just doesn't work in the game. Like, you can do things outside of the blockchain that lock it out of the interface. And that's just all, like, that's just the obvious thing that was going to happen there. Oh, calling it before NFTs in games even become like this major thing. Like, maybe it'll still happen, right? I'm sure it's gonna happen if companies think they can make money from it. If they think they can make, like, I could imagine, right? If you have a Genshin style game with all these waifus and it's like, you can actually own the waifu. Like, I could imagine there being people that want to spend that money and actually want to buy that. Like, if it makes some money, it's going to happen. This is one of those, yeah, but what's going to happen, right, is there's going to be a game like Genshin that's actually good that has NFTs, and then NFT gaming is going to just be the standard. Like that's what happened with microtransactions. We started getting games that weren't just garbage. They weren't just Angry Birds. They weren't just Candy Crush. They were Genshin Impact. They were Fate Grand Order. I think I'm just going to be listing anime games. They were Azure Lane. Like, they were Girls Frontline. They were Nikkei. That's a very recent one, but, like, they are these games that people actually want to play, and they have microtransactions, so microtransactions are now good. Or, just look at Fortnite. Like, Fortnite, incredibly popular game, has microtransactions, no one cares. Microtransactions are this thing that everyone's just forgotten used to be a problem. The problem is that when you have this new generation growing up, and they grow up when this thing is just normalized already, it's all like gaming. If you're a 10-year-old now, you're a 15-year-old now playing Fortnite or whatever, you started playing games, and every major game was already full of microtransactions. So microtransactions are normal. They're just a normal thing that games are going to have. Sure, it might be annoying, you have to pay some money, but, like, that's just how gaming is. Like, that's how gaming always has been. And the same thing is probably going to happen if NFTs in games, if companies think they can make money from it. It's going to be, like, a lot of pushback, like how there was a lot of pushback in the early days with horse armor and map packs and all of this stuff. You eventually get to, like, guns, skins, things like that. When it's like 20 or so years from now and the generation of gamers growing up are around when every game they play, like you play FIFA, you play Call of Duty, you play Fortnite, which will probably still be around, you play Roblox, and all of these games already have NFTs in them. It's like, why would we get rid of NFTs in games? NFTs have always been in games. That's why it's so important to just keep being annoying about these issues until the end of time. You're probably gonna lose. Like, that if we're being honest, you're probably gonna lose, and no one really cares. Like, if it's a fun game, they'll just play the fun game. But look, maybe you'll be able to delay stuff longer. Maybe. I wouldn't hold my breath, because usually shit going on Twitter doesn't really affect the real world that much. Like, maybe you'll annoy some people, but, you know, it doesn't really matter to most people. Yeah. But, you know, speaking of things that didn't matter to most people, do you remember... Fuck, when was it? During the Trump administration, when there was discussions to ban TikTok, how many years ago was this? I obviously I know when Trump was in office, but I don't remember when there was talks to ban TikTok. U.S. judge halts TikTok ban. That's 2020. So, like, probably 2020, 2019 would have been when TikTok bans were, like, being discussed. I am so confused by the fact that it's still fucking going. US threatens ban if TikTok's Chinese owner doesn't sell steaks. Like, it seems like every week right now, there's some, like, new news story about, like, we're threatening to ban TikTok. We're gonna ban TikTok. TikTok is bad. It's just like, is it ever gonna fucking happen? It's been talked about for so long, and nothing's been done about it. I'm convinced that TikTok is still not going to be banned by the next US election. What are we now? We're 2023, so 2024 is the next election. I don't think it's going to be banned. Like, I really don't. I feel like this discussion is still going to be happening with whoever the next president is going to be. Like, surely surely it's not this, like, surely it is not this difficult. It can't be this difficult to get a ban like this. I don't know how inefficient the US government is. I'm just talking about this from an outsider. But seeing this from the outside and seeing how often, how often a TikTok ban is brought up, I'm just convinced it's never going to happen. What I am curious about, though, is what sort of, if it does happen, what sort of reaction there's going to be from, from one, other countries, but two, the younger people in the US. Is there going to be a big uptick in VPN usage? Is this going to basically put the platform out of business in the West? Obviously, China has Douyin. Is Douyin the? I think Douyin is the Chinese version, Chinese branch. Douyin. Yes. Yeah, that is the Chinese variant of TikTok. Will it kill it in the West? Will the ban ever actually happen? I don't honestly, if you said that it was or it wasn't, at this point I'm just going to be like, yeah, probably, whatever happens just happens. From my perspective, right? I feel like everyone's kind of just forgotten that the US spies on every single citizen. I feel like everyone's just forgotten about Edward Snowden. Everyone has forgotten about the NSA spying. It's not like that ever stopped. So when the US government talks about, hey, China is stealing American citizens' data, this is so terrible. You just have to remember that the American citizens' data is already being stolen by US agencies. The only difference with China is it's leaving the country. That's the only difference. I'm sure that if TikTok does have to they do have to sell off their Chinese branch and it's closely monitored what they're doing, I don't think TikTok's going to be less spying less. They'll just be spying for a different leader. You're not going to be spying for the Chinese regime anymore. It'll be the US regime. That's just how it's going to be. There's obviously, there's regulations and all that, but if you're a government, if you're a 3-letter government agency, those regulations might not apply. If no one realizes you're breaking the law, well, who can say anything about it? That's... Ugh. I've never really gotten, into TikTok. I've used it, I used to upload... I think I uploaded some of the podcast shorts over there. I know I definitely uploaded some gaming shorts on TikTok. But as for, a general user, I just didn't find the appeal, to be honest. Maybe I'm too old for it, but I know there's more to the platform than just, the dances and things and the dumb memes and the Zoomer memes. I don't understand. I'm too old for Zoomer memes. But when it, even though I do watch YouTube shorts, I feel like the appeal of shorts is that I'm already on YouTube. I like the long form content on YouTube. Obvious. I'll watch fucking, I don't know. I'll sit down and watch a 2-hour Asmongold rant, for example. And I do watch shorts. Sometimes before I start work, I sit in the car and I'm like, okay, you know what? I don't want to walk inside just yet. I am just gonna, you know what? I'm just gonna chill here for a minute or two. I'm gonna go and watch, I don't know, some Small Ant clip, some VTuber clip, things like that. And that works great in the format of a YouTube short. But as for going just doom scrolling through TikTok, I've already got enough platforms where I doom scroll. Like, if I want to doom scroll, I can just doom scroll through whatever's trending on Twitter right now and just see what the absolute worst people on Earth have to say about what's trending right now. What's trending right now? World War III, OpenAI, Jim Chalmers, and FanFest. FanFest being FF14. Because there's a big drama about can you see it? No, you can't see it. There's a big drama right now about tickets to the Las Vegas Fan Fest event because they didn't have enough tickets. Then you had to be like in a lottery to get the right to win a ticket, to not even win a ticket, to buy a ticket. So you're in a lottery to get the chance to buy a ticket. It's just like, I know Japan loves lottery systems, and I know there's a lottery system in the game to buy a house, but like, does everything have to be a lottery? I know why it's like that as well, because last year apparently the tickets sold out fucking instantly. Because they were botted, because of course they were botted. It's FF14, it's a giant game, and people are gonna spend, $700, $800, $900, $1,000 to buy a scalp ticket because they really want to go. I don't have a passport, and I don't really feel like going to Las Vegas. So yeah, I'm not going. But it's this like right now, there's so much drama going on in the FF14 community. So I think a big part of it is Square Enix has shifted a lot of their focus away from 14 over to FF16. And Yoshi P said, "Oh, there's not going to be delays in patches because of FF16," which obviously was not going to happen because FF16 is this giant game. Yoshi P is trying to revive the Final Fantasy franchise. So of course there's going to be some delays. But every day there are just more and more and more people who are just so obsessed with this game. It's kind of weird seeing it from I'm not outside, but I don't get involved really in the 14 community. I play the game as a solo RPG, like the way I used to play RuneScape. Like, I didn't do things in groups in RuneScape for the most part outside of dungeoneering and obviously using the Grand Exchange. But other people being in the world was it was kind of just inconsequential to the way that I played the game. It's just like, oh, these are all NPCs that occasionally will tell me their fishing level. It just didn't really... It just doesn't make any sense for me why you would get so obsessed with a single game. Like, with all the drama about the patch content, and people being like, oh, there's nothing to do in this game right now. This patch only took me a couple of days to complete. What am I supposed to do for the next 4 months? Play another video game. Like, no one's forcing you to play one video game. There are other things that exist. Go play Hi-Fi Rush. Go play Elden Ring. Go play anything that catches your attention. Like, it doesn't even have to be games that I care about. Just go and play something that isn't this game. If you don't like the state of the game, like, why? Why are you playing it right now? I remember when I was first getting into 14, I think the big change is the fact that there's a lot of WoW players playing 14 now, and from my understanding, WoW players are very much, a lot of them are one game Andes. It's like, I play WoW, and WoW, and maybe I play Dragonflight and Classic. Maybe, but I play WoW, and that is it. And it seems like a lot of those people, because the patch cycle wasn't really that much different if you go back to the end of Shadowbringers, things like that. Or just even the start of Endwalker. Like, it wasn't that much different. The difference is that there's a lot of people who are one game Andes who are like, what am I supposed to do? Right, the point I was getting at was when I first joined 14, there was this whole idea where if you don't like have anything to do in the game, you don't have to keep your sub going. You can take breaks from the game and come back. Like that's just a normal, like this was encouraged by Yoshi P. He's like, yeah, you don't have to stay sub to the game. Just play it when you want to, and that's fine. But it seems like that mentality is sort of, I don't know if it's vanished or if it never really existed. Because I don't recall seeing people being as as aggressive about this when I first started. But maybe it's because when I first started, it was just around Endwalker. And, you know, being a whole new expansion, it's got all of these new things that people are excited about. You got these extra classes or jobs or whatever. You've got these extra levels. You got this entire MSQ. You've got this, like, this new zone to explore. So it sort of took a while for it to catch up. I was not around, like, during early Shadowbringers, so I don't know if it was any better or any worse then. But at least from when I've played, it certainly seems like it's gotten worse. It could just be, like, maybe this is just me. Like, maybe this is just my interpretation of the situation. And it's always like this, where, you know, you have the expansion, then by the 0.2, 0.3 expansion, everyone's already angry. But I do remember people getting very angry about Island Sanctuary being added instead of something like Eureka or Bosja. But I do recall before Island Sanctuary was added, people complaining about Eureka and Bosja. Maybe I'm just taking the forum too seriously, and no one here actually plays the game. It seems like this is, it's really weird, right? Whenever I go to the forum, I see a lot of the same names. I don't know if a lot of these people just play the forum rather than playing the game, because it really does seem like it. Wait, what? What is this? Why do people avoid getting... Also, there are people on this forum that I think are just trolling all the time. Why do people avoid getting better at the game? The answer is simple. There is no reason to get better at the game. 14 offers such a casual experience that the player base has never had a reason to actually get better at game mechanics outside of those who wish to participate in extreme, savage, and ultimate content. The player base got babysit through the entire game, even get difficulty drops and MSQ instances because it's too hard. There is no reason to babysit people. People adapt and become better players by being challenged, even if it is only a small... Like, there are things that are actually challenging in this game. The problem is that no one cares about them. I do love the people that get angry about the casual players, as if, like, being a casual player of a game somehow makes you, like, worse in the, like, unless you're playing the game, unless you're a sweaty gamer playing 12 hours a day, it just doesn't matter what you think about the game. Like, the casual players are probably, like, the primary player base. Like, that's sort of the case for most games. Like, most people playing a game aren't the sweaty gamers. They're just like, yeah, you know, I got a family, I got 2 kids, I'm 37 years old, I play the game fucking 3 hours a week, I keep my sub going, but I'm enjoying it. Like, those are the regular people that are playing a game. But, you know, people, just play other video games. If you don't like the state of a game you're playing, doesn't matter what it is, just play something else. It just is what it is. It just is what it is. Just do something else. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your time playing a game. You don't... okay, as much as I'm probably a bad person to say this, because I did play RuneScape for way too long, you don't You don't have to play a game if it's boring you. You don't have to, go sweaty gamer cutting trees for 12 hours. You don't have to do that. You can do other things. And I'm sure there are games in your library that you haven't touched yet. There's games in my library I haven't touched. I've talked about this on the gaming channel a lot. Every time someone mentions a cool new game that I should go and play, it's like, yeah, I want to play it, but like, I've got Dark Souls. I've got like three Souls games I want to play: Sekiro, Dark Souls 3, and Elden Ring. I want to play Hi-Fi Rush. I want to play the Yakuza series. I want to play God of War. I want to finish off Kingdom Hearts. I want to do all... There's too much. There's too many good video... Why am I complaining there's too many video games? What a complaint to make. There are too many things that are to have fun. This is the state of the world right now. You have too much leisure. Maybe that is the problem. Maybe we need less leisure, and everyone should be fucking out on the farm, growing wheat or something. I don't. I've been watching Vinland Saga. It's very good. If you've not seen Vinland Saga season 2, it's very good. It sort of made a really big shift from the first season, which I did see turn some people away, but I feel like the direction the series has gone is actually like it's better in many ways than the first season. So if you've not seen Vinland Saga, basically it is based on I think it's based on some like Viking stories. I don't know what the Viking stories were called. If I look up Thorfinn, no, not the wiki of that. I want Thorfinn, the actual adventurer. It was written down in a series of stories. Yeah, I don't know how to read that actually. But it's like the Saga of the Greenlanders, Eric the Red Saga, things like that. So it's sort of it's loosely based on these classic like Viking stories. The idea is that when people from Iceland were going out to sea, there was this story from Leif Erikson, whatever his name was, who eventually managed to find North America. And when he went back, this was Vinland. This was this place that was so much greater than where we were. This is this place that's not, it's not cold all the time. It's not this, it's like this fertile land. There's animals running everywhere. Like, this was 1000 AD, so it was long before it was colonized by the British or it was still like the only people there were the Native Americans. So there was just fertile land everywhere, and Vinland Saga is based around the story of Thorfinn and sort of how he goes through his life. Vinland Saga Part 1, like the first season, is about when he's a kid, and spoilers, his dad dies in the second episode. And this, like, destroys him. He wants to get vengeance against the person who killed his father. And ends up joining his army as a way to get vengeance. Because, like, the only way I can keep an eye on this guy is if I am part of his army. He learns how to fight, things like that. And first season is very, very action heavy. Like, they're going through a war. Thorfinn's like killing everybody he sees, no questions asked, killing children, killing families, everybody, because that's the only way he knows he can learn how to fight, get stronger, and eventually take down the guy who killed his father. But by the second season starts off with Thorfinn being a slave. Like, after some stuff that happened in the first season, I'm not going to spoil. Um, he gets sold to slavery and is basically just a destroyed person. He didn't know what to do anymore. It was like his entire life was just done. There was no reason to keep on living, but there was also not a good enough reason to die. Um, and the second season is sort of about, and I guess the series going forward is a lot about him just learning to be human again after basically turning himself into a beast to try to kill this person. And the second season had a lot of like, there's a lot of segments where it's just about a nightmare, about him trying to just cope with what's going on, but doesn't, like, when he wakes up, he doesn't remember the nightmare. All he knows is something bad happened, and as it goes on, you sort of expand upon that. But it's also got this parallel story as well, about Canute, the at that time at the start of the season, the King of England, but now as King Harold is dying, also becomes the King of Denmark. Also a real figure as well. Canute. Canute the Great. Canute the King of England from 1016, and the King of Denmark from 1018, and the King of Norway from 1028. And then he dies 7 years later in 1035. Spoilers. Spoilers for the 1,000-year-old story. But yeah, there's this parallel story about Canute where he starts off as he starts off the story sort of the opposite of Thorfinn. So right off the start, so right at the absolute start, Thorfinn and Canute are both these very how would you say, they're just children. They're just children being children. And Thorfinn has to grow up very quickly as he becomes as he needs to become this warrior. But while Thorfinn is becoming this warrior, Canute is still this pampered prince. He has everything done for him. He has really nothing bad in his life, and everyone just forces him, or everyone just bows down around him. And eventually he has to sort of become this king that everybody expects him to be, leading to him poisoning. Did he poison? Was he? Did he? No. Yeah, he poisoned his father, I believe, or was it someone else? No, I'm pretty sure he poisoned his father, to take over the throne, and then also turns out poisoned his brother as well to take over that throne as well. And now he's seeing these ghosts everywhere because he's also not exactly fully stable. Like, he's going around killing specific people to take over these, to take over England, to take over Denmark, to take over Norway, because he feels like this is the right thing to do. The only way that he can sort of keep this very, these war-torn parts of the world stable is if there is one king that rules them all. He knows that this is at least he thinks this is the best way to do it, but he also knows that, as he tries to take out more people, there's a higher chance that someone is going to try to take him out as well, and he's always worried about this and not really sure if he's doing the right thing, but he knows he's doing the right thing. It's just like, what do I do? It's this really, really interesting story about two people who come from very different backgrounds, but both have to become adults really quickly and take on the responsibility that's just forced upon them. I highly recommend you go and watch Vinland Saga. I'm probably gonna go read the manga as well. I hear the manga is very good. And the manga is way ahead. I believe now Thorfinn is like leading another army to like sort of he wants to end war. Like that's his big goal in he's sort of outlined um in the most recent episode. He's like, I want to end slavery, I want to end war, I want everyone, not to be friends, not like, happy go lucky, everyone be happy and friendly and all that, but like not just fighting for the sake of fighting, cooperating and cooperating for the best of everyone, and not making more people go through what he had to deal with. Because by this point in season 2, I think he's been a slave for like 5 or 6 years. Now, to be fair, he's sort of like one of the most... He's a slave in the most loose context possible. So the guy who bought him and the guy who bought his now friend Einar is like, yeah, you know what? You see that forest over there? Cut that forest down, but you can use that area to grow wheat, and if you make enough to pay off how much I spent for you, you can fucking leave. Like, you can just not be a slave anymore. And that's where we are up to now in the anime. They are just about to... Well, stuff's happening with Canute now. But they're at the point now where they can basically pretty much leave soon, I guess, and just not do that. I do know that the next part, like towards the end of this, like the slave arc, slave saga, the Farmland saga, as some people have come to call it, Thorfinn does go back home to re-meet his family after he hasn't seen them. I think the last time he would have seen his family at this point was like 10 or 15 years ago. So the idea is, the reason why he even got involved in someone trying to kill his father is, his father took him out on like a neat little expedition. It wasn't supposed to be anything dangerous, but basically they got jumped by, some serious Vikings. They're just like, they're just guys from a village. It turns out his father was this very renowned warrior, but he was the only person there who was like a really strong fighter, and you can't have an entire army go up against one person, with the exception of one of the characters who his entire bit is just, he is giant. He's like 7 foot tall and just throws people. He's 7 foot tall, 8 foot tall, whatever. He's literally called Torkel the Tall. 230 centimeters. I don't know how tall that is. What is that in feet and inches? 230 centimeters, 180 kilos. cm in feet and inches. That is, yeah, 7.6 foot. So he just throws people. Besides him, like a regular person can't exactly go up against an army. And the idea with Torkel is he's also Torkel the Invincible. So he's been shot with like a ton of arrows, just keeps going. No one can kill him. I don't know if he's dead in the story now. But maybe he is. Maybe Torkel the Invincible became Torkel the Vincible. Is that the opposite invincible? I don't know. I don't know. Go watch Vinland Saga. It's very good. But let's move away from Vinland Saga. I don't know if you guys seen this, but have you seen the video on the world's largest 3DS? Shut up. So this guy has a 3DS, and he's like, hey, let's make a full size, like human cabinet size 3DS with a 3D TV to get the 3D effect. It is stupid. Like these buttons here, not that, the actual buttons. So I think the start and select buttons are like typical buttons you would see on like a arcade cabinet. These are just ridiculous. I think my favorite part actually is the thumbstick, because this thing is just, it is a absolute chonker. Like, this is such a cool and dumb project. Wait, new stylus. What's this? I didn't see the stylus. Show me the stylus. Oh my god, it's a giant pen. That's actually incredible. This is completely ridiculous. Like, is this a practical way to play 3DS games? No. Is this a good way to play 3DS games? No. Is this a cool way to play 3DS games? Abso-fucking-lutely. Like, this is such a ridiculous way. And, like, it's, the screen's so big that you want, like, you want to actually play it in 3D. You don't even, like, you know, a lot of the 3DS games people would play, people didn't want to do 3D with them. Like, no one cares about 3D on the 3DS. Everyone just turned it off because it just wasted battery life, wasn't really that good of an effect, had to be on a very specific angle. Oh, and you can actually, I didn't see this part. You can control it from an actual DS. Oh my god. This, oh god, playing Dream Drop Distance on this would be a nightmare. Oh, it's also being controlled by... It's being controlled by a Steam Deck. Okay, that's actually kind of awesome. Honestly, I love, like, stupid projects like this. Is like, as I said, this is a completely impractical way to play any video game. It might be cool, like, it might be cool as a demo. Like, you can just show, like, look at this crazy thing. You can just play a giant game on it. But it's so impractical. But it's so cool nonetheless. And I love that the DS and the 3DS are still getting attention. Like, these are ancient systems. But the DS especially, the 3DS was just more DS plus 3D that everyone turned off. The DS especially was such a different kind of console. And when you try to go back and emulate games on a DS, there are so many games that just can't be played the same way unless you're playing on actual hardware. Like, okay, when we talk about, you know, PS2 games, PS1 games, things like that, if you emulate, what's a good example? Something that's not been re-released. You know what, fuck, we'll pick something that has been re-released. If you go play Kingdom Hearts 1, before the HD remix came out, before it came out on PC, a lot of people would just emulate the PS2 version. And the experience you get emulating a PS2 game is pretty much the experience of playing it on PS2 hardware. It's probably going to be at a higher res, especially if you've upscaled it. It's probably not going to be on a shit TV like you would have played on when the PS2 came out, but the game itself is going to be the game. And the same is true for pretty much every single console, with the exception of the DS. A lot of DS games are fine, but when we're talking about, you know, the games that are heavy touchscreen use, like Pokemon Ranger, like The World Ends With You, even if you do the setup that I did for playing The World Ends With You, I was playing on a drawing tablet. It's playable, but a lot of the systems in The World Ends With You are based around the screen being the DS screen size. So a lot of the also just having a stylus directly on the part where you're gonna see it. So you can play it, but a lot of things are like this is a bit harder than they would have been playing on hardware that was designed to be like that. And the same with Pokemon Ranger. Like Pokemon Ranger, you have on the DS, you have a very small screen. And the idea with Pokemon Ranger is basically you draw circles around Pokemon, and that is how you catch them. See if I can find it. Pokemon Ranger gameplay. Here we go. Here we go. So basically you just draw circles around them, and it has a number of circles you have to draw. The problem with doing this on anything bigger than a DS is you have to draw things that are bigger than a DS screen. And this is kind of inconvenient. Like, it's really annoying. It can be done, but, like, it's just nowhere near... It's nowhere near the experience of playing on that. I don't know of a single other... Maybe... No, not even the... Maybe you can make the argument for the Wii? But if a game requires, like, the Wii motion, you basically have to play it with a Wii controller anyway. If it's a game that doesn't require the Wii motion, you could have always just played it on a GameCube controller or a Wii Pro controller. I don't think there's a single... I don't think there's really much else where it's so different. Like, the same with, that exercise game on Switch. Like, that's a game that sort of requires you to have that extra hardware to make it make sense. But in the case of DS games, like, this is something built into the DS. There are so many DS games where they just don't work unless you are on the DS. Like, Nintendogs is another great example. You can play it with a drawing tablet, but the parts that require the touchscreen just, they don't play the same way. I think the closest experience you could get isn't using one of the cheap drawing tablets. It's one of the drawing displays, one of those tablets that have an actual screen on it, so then you can see exactly where your stylus is. That, I think, might give you a reasonable approximation of the experience. That's about as close as you could reasonably get not playing on actual hardware. But that's just my experience. Maybe you prefer it. Maybe you prefer playing DS games emulated with, like, drawing tablets, things like that. There are some DS games where, if they weren't released on the DS, nothing would have changed. Like, Kingdom Hearts Days, for example, it could have just, like... I wish that game got a remake, like with Dream Drop Distance, where you could actually play it on a home console. I know why Dream Drop didn't, but... Dream Drop did, but Days didn't. Dream Drop, when it came out, looked like a PS2 game. So, upscaling that, doing the regular HD remake stuff wasn't that weird. Days looked like barely a PS1 game, somewhere between PS1 and PS2. You could have put that on home console, and when I played it on an emulator upscaled, it looked fine. Obviously, the models were very low detail, but it looked fine. There was no reason we couldn't have had an actual remake. But sadly, that, along with Recoded, has been sort of lost to the what do you call it? The sands of time. And the only way to really go back and play it is through that system. Now, a game that definitely didn't need a remake, but is now actually playable, is Kingdom Hearts VCast. So, most Kingdom Hearts fans know about Kingdom Hearts Coded. That was the original version of Recoded. This was a mobile phone game. This was on the NTT Docomo. I don't know what that is. It's some sort of Japanese mobile phone system. But this game eventually got completely remade into Kingdom Hearts Recoded. A game that sort of has been lost to the history of time was Kingdom Hearts V-Cast. So, Kingdom Hearts V-Cast is... It's another mobile phone game. This was on Verizon's wireless broadband service. It was released in 2004 in Japan and 2005 in the United States. So, this was pre-iPhone. I'll see if I can find a video of Vcast. Because Vcast is now actually going to be playable now that the emulator to play that system, the Menenge emulator or something like that, is getting to a good state. I think, where does... Yeah, here it is. Here we go. Gamers Joint showing it off. So, you run around like a fucking tank. You have to turn in place. This was an action game. This wasn't just like, you know, turn-based Kingdom Hearts. This was an actual action game that existed. It's still in... the emulator is still in development, so you can't play it right now, but this is like just around the corner. The only issue with Vcast is half the game's missing. So, like a lot of mobile games, especially at the time, they were released in parts. So, there is an archive of part 1, but nobody has a copy that we know of part 2. Like the Wonderland segment. So, some of the game is just missing. And sort of isn't going to be playable anytime soon. I hope it is. I would absolutely love to play this game and stream this game. It's gonna be bad. Like, it's gonna be God of War mobile bad. Oh, in case you didn't know, there was a God of War mobile game. What was the game called? God of War Betrayal, yes. Fucking hell, the name's been loud. God of War Betrayal. Videos. What was this system on? Give me 1 second. This was on Java Platform Micro Edition, or Java ME. And also, it's technically canon. So, if you want to know the entire story of God of War, technically, you have to play this. Or you could read a wiki, or you could not care, because it's God of War. Here it is. Yeah, let's see if we can find a bit of the combat. Skip ahead. It was actually a 2D God of War game. Like, it wasn't just some, like, weird thing that was nothing like God of War. The only problem is it was scuffed as hell. Like, it even had... If you look at this, it even had, like, the grab mechanics. Like, it was just straight up God of War through and through. I don't even know if it had... Did it have the QuickTime events? They're not showing it here. But, like, I would have loved this if I knew about this as a kid. If I had a phone that could play this as a kid, I would have played this absolutely constantly. Even if it is scuffed, even if it is shit, and you shouldn't want to play it. But, like, my concept of mobile phone games back then was Snake, and was Tetris, and was Solitaire. And that's it. That is all. I didn't even know that things like this existed until maybe like 6 or 7 years ago. This is one I found out about the other day. But like just the fact that games that were actual games existed back then, like for like not just a one-off thing for the phone, like trying to be this legitimate game. I didn't realize those existed for a long time until we got to the iPhone, really. But the problem with a lot of these old games is there are so many systems out there, and some of them just don't have emulators. I do believe that Java ME works just fine with an emulator. You don't have a problem with that one, but there are all these weird systems that might have had like one game that you might want to go back and have a look at, but it's just lost to the sands of time. Lost to the sands of time, and is never never going to be never going to be discovered again. But there's always these people that there are always these people that want to revive something and just want to see if emulating a platform like this is actually possible. And even though there might be better things you could spend your time on, maybe it's not a good use of your time to go write an emulator for this archaic platform that has one game that anybody cares about. Maybe that's a waste of time. But who cares? Just make something cool and have some fun with it. Make something cool and give people something exciting to look at in the world. But speaking of making something cool, so there is this game that you almost certainly have not heard about unless you watch Asmongold, called Bleak Faith Forsaken. The reason why you've probably not heard of it is because nobody has played the game. Bleak Faith Forsaken Steam charts. So this game had a all-time peak of 1,800 players. Now, the reason why it had an all-time peak of 1,800 players is this is an indie game. Okay. This is an indie game that is 40 Australian dollars. This is a Souls-like game made by three people. Made by three people. It's really ambitious. Like, super, super ambitious for an indie game. Made in Unity. And looked really cool. The problem where you have a really ambitious game and you're an indie studio, the game can be a little bit buggy. So, yeah. There's some weird game design in this where... Okay, usually when you have a Souls-like game, or usually when you have a video game, right? Usually when you have a video game, you tend to make it pretty clear where you can and cannot go. Like, if there is a tower that you cannot go to, that should be far enough away where it cannot be jumped to. There are many areas in this game that you're not supposed to get to, that you can just jump to, and the game doesn't stop you. You can just go over there. You fall through the map, but the game doesn't stop you going there. And as much as I like the idea of doing that, it shouldn't be happening, to be honest. Like, there is like this basic level of quality that is generally expected. One of the main reasons I brought this up is they bought an asset. Did I say Unity? I meant to say Unreal. Pretty sure it's Unreal. Because they bought assets off the Unreal store. Give me 1 second. I'm pretty sure that was where they said. Yes? Other one. Yes. Okay. I said Unity. I meant Unreal. My bad. But they bought an asset off the Unreal store, and it turns out it was basically copied from software. And people were like, "You're stealing animations from software. Wow, dare you?" But they bought the asset from the store. So someone straight up just uploaded an asset that they didn't have the rights to. But the part about this game that I that I find most amusing is this right here. Additional notes. System requirements inaccurate until further updates. So they have this list of system requirements, but then they're like, nah, they're wrong. So what are these system requirements then? It's like, why are you saying this is the requirements if the system requirements are inaccurate? So they're not the system requirements, like, at all. Like, what are you talking about? I kind of want to go play it. I know it's so scuffed, but I kind of want to play it because I know it's scuffed. And it's $40. Maybe I buy it just for the meme. Like, it's very tempting, to be completely frank. I like my Souls-like games. I like games that are broken as hell. I like to see what sort of mess happens with them and where they end up going. It seems like the developer for this is really wanting the game to become better. They are patching it very frequently. They are trying to, like, make things right. Especially when they have gotten all this attention from... no one's buying it, but they've gotten all this attention from people like Asmongold. I think Asmongold's the only person who even knows this game exists. Actually, here's my favorite part, right? The number of reviews has almost hit the peak players. There are almost more reviews than people who have ever played, who've like all played the game at the same time. Oh, I love it. Honestly, like, I think if you're an indie dev, I know it can be tempting to make this big, expansive game. But if we look at the indie games out there that are incredible, like god-tier indie games, Hollow Knight, Hades, Bastion, like, all of these games, like Terraria, Stardew Valley, these are games that have a very... they have a very simple goal, and they're not trying to be these graphically impressive games. Like, not... I guess Hades is, but not visual fidelity. They're not trying to be these really good-looking games in the way you would typically think of a realistic-looking game. Like, I don't know the best way to put it, but they're not trying to be these crazy detailed textures. They're going down this artistic route that is a lot simpler to work with when you are a small studio. I don't want to say don't try to make something as ambitious as Bleak Faith, but I think if you were considering making a game and you're an indie studio, maybe something like this is a little bit too ambitious, because this is their first game. Like, keep that in mind as well. This is 3 people making their first game. Oh, obviously, first game as this studio. They probably had some other experience. But first game they release as a studio. And it's a giant Souls-like game with these giant areas, all of these different weapon types. And it just... It's a lot of work for an indie studio. And if you can make it work, fucking go ahead. But most people are going to look at the end result. They're not going to be like, okay, it's made by 3 people. I guess we have to give it some leeway. If it was like a $20 game, yeah, you could be like, yeah, okay, give it some leeway. It's $20. What do you expect? It's a cheap game from an indie studio. If it's not perfect, it's not perfect. But when you're asking for $40, it's like, oh, we're getting to the point where you expect there to be quality. It doesn't matter if it's made by 1 people or 1,000 people. What you care about is, was my money spent well? Did I buy a game that was just worth it generally? And maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. As I've said, I've only seen playthroughs of it, and it looks really scuffed right now. But maybe I'll play it. Or maybe I won't, because I have way too many games to play. Like DMC 3 and fucking God of War 2 and Yakuza 0 and Hogwarts, and I want to play Hi-Fi Rush, and I want to do all this other stuff. FF16's coming out in a couple of months. Too many video games, too little time. I have so much relaxation to do. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to manage all this relaxation? Oh god, you know. It is what it is. But well, I guess, do we have anything else I want to touch on before we end off? No. I guess I'll briefly mention this. I want to buy one because it's stupid, but I will never use it. This is a 21 SSD add-in card. So it plugs into a PCIe port, and you can attach 21 you can attach 21 M.2 SSDs to it. 168 terabytes of storage with 21 8 terabyte SSDs. And it works on Linux. Why would you buy one? A data center. Would you buy one for a home system? That depends on how much it costs. I don't think they actually have a price listed at this stage. Machine learning and hyper-converged infrastructure. Yes. No, there is no price here. Windows Server, Linux. Yes. Should you buy one? No. Do I want one? Yes. Wait. Oh, thank you. X21 pricing is 2,800 USD. Are you listening to my fucking microphone? I'm gonna close this website. Jesus Christ. So $2,100 plus $21,000 for the 21 8 terabyte SSDs. Seems like a good deal. Probably not. But for data centers, like, this could be big. Like, this could be a crazy thing to have in a data center. And I'm sure this is not the only one, but it's just so cool nonetheless. Like, it's shaped like a GPU, but you just plug in a shitload of SSDs to it. It's awesome. And the last thing I'll mention is the F1 Sim Racing Rig. Get the worst value gaming PC ever with this F1 Sim Rig. This is £99,000 euro? What the fuck is that symbol? I don't know your European money. What is this? Pound, yes. £99,000. This is made out of the, like, actual shell. Like, the actual material, and designed like an actual F1 car. Like, this front end is straight up just a front end from an F1 car. That's why it's so expensive. But yeah, there's no clear indication right now on what's actually inside of it, because it comes with a gaming PC. So there is a gaming PC in here. But I don't know how much you would have to, like, what you would have to have in this system to justify that much money. I'm sure someone's gonna buy it. Like, this would be a ridiculous thing to have in your house, and someone is going to want it. I'm not the target audience, but someone is. Someone that just has way too much money and way too little brains. But it's cool. It is really cool. So, I think that is going to be it for me. I am going to go edit some videos. I am going to go... I got to go to work afterwards as well. That'll be great. And yeah. I am working on doing an episode with Imalo, who is the guy who installs Gentoo and everything. I'm working on doing an episode with Nick from the Linux Experiment, and I'm also working on something with Vaxry, the guy who developed Hyperland. So those may happen, may not happen, some point in the future. We'll see what happens. So, that is gonna be it for me. If you liked this episode, go and like the episode and all that fun stuff. If you're not subscribed, do that as well. The audio version is available on any audio podcast platform. The video version is on YouTube, both of which are at Tech Over Tea. The main channel is Brody Robertson. I do Linux videos and sometimes throw in some AI videos 6 days a week. The gaming channel, I'm currently playing through Hogwarts Legacy and Yakuza 0. Yes. And I'm probably going to still be playing through it whenever you see this, because both of them are long games. So, that is going to be it for me. Enjoy the rest of your day and all that fun stuff, and I'm out.